In this MagicView tutorial, we're going to walk you through how you can create a template that can be used over and over again to create new layouts for your signage. So you can see I've created a blank canvas for a single screen in landscape. And what I want to do is I want to add a clock, a weather widget, have some scrolling text, and a place for an image. So I'm just going to drop the pieces I need onto my template. I need a message and an empty content. So I've got my 4 key pieces that I want to work with. Now it's a matter of positioning them how I want them to fit on the screen. So let's begin with the clock. I'm going to want this in the top left corner, so I'm going to change my position. And I'm going to make it just a little bit wider. Now if we go down, I need to configure it. I'm going to set this for in Taipei, so I'm going to select my time zone for my clock. If I wanted to, I could change it to an analog clock, or I could choose to add the date as well, or make it a 24-hour clock. But I'm just going to leave it as a regular digital clock and select OK. Next, let's look at our weather. I'm going to want to position this underneath my clock. And now when you're moving around, you'll notice you'll have these little guidelines at the top and the bottom to sort of show you where positions are. So I'm going to leave a little bit of space, so I want to move this to the 300 mark, so I'll make my Y value 300. And I'm going to have it on the left side, so I'll make that 0. Now I want this to be as wide as my clock as well, so I'm going to make that the same width of 600. And I'm pretty happy there. Next, let's position our message. For the message, I would like to have some scrolling text running across the bottom of my screen, and I'd like it to fill the gap underneath my weather. So if I go down to my weather, the bottom of the weather widget, I see it comes in at about 900. So I'm going to want to position this at 900 and my X at 0. And I'm going to want it the entire width of the screen. And I know that it's 1080 all the way, so I need to make this height 180 to fill the bottom. And finally, I just need to position my blank content layer to fill the rest of my screen. So I know my clock and weather are 600, so I'm going to move this over to 600 on the X. I'm going to want to start it at the top, and then I'll fill in my values to have it stretch across my screen. And there we go. We've created a blank layout to begin with. Now I'm just going to go back to my weather. And I'm going to go down to configure, and I'm going to want this for Taipei. So I'll add that in and select it. And I'd like my display English language to be English. And there we go. So let's just take a preview. There we go, we have it. You'll notice we don't see anything for our image or our text. This is because we didn't put any content in. If you want to check and make sure everything's fitting correctly, you can just do a sample. So I'm going to drop in a picture on my layer. I'm going to go down to this box. You'll notice that there's this empty content value in before, and it has a playback of 5 minutes. So I'm going to delete that because I don't want that there. And for my message, I'll just import one that I created before, just so we can see. And then I'll configure it to fill the space, and I want it to be scrolling text, so I'm going to make it go from the right to the left, and I'll just adjust my speed a little bit there. All right, let's see our preview now to see how everything is fitting together. And there we go, we have everything working nicely. Our picture's filling in. You'll notice there's some gaps. That's because the image we've selected has a different ratio compared to the box size, and we've selected to play back the content in its original ratio. When you're adding the content in, if you want to change it to fill the space, I'll just click back on my layer, go down a little bit in my settings. I could deselect this and it will fill the whole area. But for this tutorial, it's not so important because we're just going to save this as a blank template. So I'm going to delete my content from my layer, and also I'll eliminate the message I added. But I'll leave the settings for the scrolling text and the font size as well. Now, one more thing I wanted to do is, I noticed there's a bit of a gap between the clock and the weather. I just want to balance that space. So I'm just going to move it down a little bit, and I'm pretty happy with that. So if I click on the background here and check under properties, I can see where I can add a name to this. So I've named this landscape 1. If I wanted to change it to something else, I could add that here. And now that I'm happy with everything, I'm going to go up and I'm going to choose Save as Template. And now it says in order to publish this selected layout, it will need to generate a thumbnail image. So you need to preview. If you don't want to worry about having the thumbnails to see what it looks like, you can just select No and it will save. But let's hit Yes. It's just going to give us a small window on the top left to see the playback. All right, and there we are. The layout has been published. Now, in order to use this for future designs, I'm going to go back to my Layout Manager. And you'll notice I had saved it under Tutorial Group, but there's nothing showing here. That's because under the Layout Manager, only published layouts will appear here. And this is only a template. So in order to use this, I'm going to go back up, and under New, I'm going to hit this arrow. At the bottom, I can select Create New Layout by using Layout Template. And then here I see my new Landscape 1, and it has a little thumbnail showing me what it'll look like. And if I wanted to use that, I could just select it and hit Create. In just a second, it's going to open. And there we go. We've got our clock, our weather, our message, and our blank layer all ready to go to begin dropping content in to create a new layout to publish to play back on our signage.